feet of the chain, run them. And how do you do that? First 6 seconds, 8 feet, everything you got. Everything you got. Turn that shit up. Let's go.
Welcome to the Scoop World Order. It is Michigan State week. It is Wednesday. The team is through their first practice on Bloody Tuesday, generally the hardest practice of the week. Another big practice today on Wednesday. We are right in the middle of the season, but more importantly, these guys get through this one and they get to that lovely bye week. So they are super excited about that. The guys got to get healthy. If there's one thing that is a major issue with Ohio State right now, it is the injury situation. A lot of guys are dinged up. A lot of guys are missing time. Got to get that cleaned up going before we hit Penn State and especially into Michigan. So with that being said, as always, we are thankful for you guys. We're grateful. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We have such an amazing following on here. We're growing like crazy, as all thanks to you guys. So thank you guys. We appreciate you guys. If you enjoy this video, please click the like button down below. That makes a huge difference on how many people get to see our video. Kind of spreads it through the YouTube algorithm. So thank you so much for that. Comment down below. What do you want to see against Michigan State? What do you want to see cleaned up? Is it the defense? Is it something with the offensive skill guys? Do you want to see more Mine Williams? Mine, at this point, might be a first-team All-American. If they stop the voting today, I mean, he's got the highest average, 7.7 yards a carry right now. Really grinding and just kicking butt up front, which is awesome. The O-line's doing great. Do you want to see something else, CJ Stroud? Do you want to see him run the ball? Let me know in the comments below. And as always, shout out where you're from. That's my favorite part of the whole show, is figuring out where you guys are listening from, because we've had guys from basically every continent, and I'm still waiting on someone to go to Antarctica and listen to us, but that is the next step. So we appreciate you guys. So with that being said, I want to bring in my homie, the OG, former All-American, TJ Downing, my dog. What is up, my man? How are you doing tonight?
So wait, I'm finally being acknowledged as an All-American?
Well,
Finally?
I mean,
second team making the cut?
Oh, yeah, I thought you were just honorable mention, so you did make second team. Okay, because Rivals doesn't count, and whatever the Canton Hall of Fame, Canton Repository All-Americans don't count. It's got to be AP, Walter Camp, one of those. So yeah, okay. Well, you could be a second team All-American. It's fine. I mean, I'll give you a couple leaves off my tree, and we'll all be cool. Does that work for you?
I'll take it, man.
I appreciate you, dog. So let's go back to 05, because in 06 we did not have a bye week, and get ready to play Michigan State. You had a much better right tackle that game, because I was injured. So you had your boy Booney starting your right tackle next to you. Michigan State was a kind of an interesting game. It all changed on the Ashton Yabodi. I guess it was obviously a blown assignment with Michigan State when they didn't have a wing on the field on field goal. So Ashton literally just waltzed in there, blocked the punt. They ran it back right as time expired before halftime. But talk to me a little bit about what you remember from your days playing Michigan State 05, 06. John L. Smith, I think, kind of drove the program into the ground, especially in 06. I remember going up there, and I think we put the final nail in his coffin that game where we just whooped them. And then Dino took over in 07. He made the program much stronger. What do you remember about your days playing Michigan State, especially when we went up there in 04 and 06?
Well, in 05, I thought you came back that game.
Mm-mm.
You were out that one?
Sideline pass, dog. I was chilling. Man. I had my shades on. I was 100% in the nightclub dancing, 0% on the field. You remember that?
Club seats.
Seats.
I'll tell you this. So Michigan State has always kind of been interesting to me, because so in 04, I actually got my first start ever for the Ohio State Buckeyes against Michigan State. Now, funny story behind that. I think a lot of people on that team would say that I should have been starting from the beginning of the year. It kind of took a lot of things to happen before the right combo got in there. Kirk started playing, Troy started playing, I started playing, and I was kind of the last guy into the fold. Well, my first start in 04 as a sophomore against Michigan State up in East Lansing, I didn't find out that I was starting until like 3 hours before the game. Now, our fearless center, Nick Mangold, I think he had gotten into Coach Tress's doghouse. We won't say it. They made him sit for the first quarter, And so Doug Daddish moved down to center, and I popped in and started at guard. And then at the end of the first quarter, didn't matter how I was playing, I still came out, and Nick Mangold came back in. So that was kind of tough for me. But then as we go into the next season, my junior year in '05, that was really the game against Michigan State in the Horseshoe. That was the turning point for the Buckeyes that year. And, my stat line from that season, I had more minutes logged player on Ohio State's team offensively that year. Um, that was John L. Smith's. He imploded at halftime when you mentioned about Ubodi and they didn't have the wing, and I think was it Dante that ended up blocking that, and Ubodi scooped and scored.
Yeah, it was one of them. I can't remember who actually scored it. For some reason, I feel like it was Ashton that blocked
scored it. I think Dante blocked it.
Yeah.
And then John L. Smith went off at the 50-yard line. And I can't remember what reporter it was. I don't think it was Jack Root, but he went off on somebody. And then so we come out in the second half, and Santonio goes off. We had a great second half. We win the game, and really that was like our organizing point where by the end of that season, you would say the same, Kirk. I think we were the best team in the country. We knew back when we lined up against Texas in week 2 that the winner of that game was probably going to be in the national championship game. We should have beat them. We didn't. They ended up winning, and they went on and won the national title. But by the time we beat Michigan and then played Notre Dame in a Fiesta Bowl, we could have easily beaten Texas and USC. They ended up having that magical Rose Bowl game that still goes down in history as one of the all-time classics. But for me, that game against Michigan State my junior year in the Horseshoe, I remember there was a guy that I played with in high school, Nick Smith, and you remember Brandon Long. He was also a Glen Oak Golden Eagle. And they called me the Thursday night before that game, and they said, in our meetings with the defensive line room, we have singled 72, the right guard, out as the weakest link on that offensive line for Ohio State. And that was, for me, that was huge, man. I said, okay, but you also got to remember, you're talking about Nick Mangold, Doug Daddish, Rob Sims, some good players. Now, I proved the point that game by going against Domata Peko, who I think he had like 15, 16 years in the league. And I had a great game. But my senior year, 06, when we went up to East Lansing, we ended up beating them, I think, like 56-7. And I'll never forget this, and you remember this, Kirk. I jumped off sides that game. And I ended up grading out at like a 90 or a 91%. Now, for every offsides, you get docked 3%. So I was docked 9% and graded out at a 90 or a 91. Without jumping off sides, I probably played a perfect game. And I went into that thing because I was going against probably their best defensive player, which was Clifton Ryan. He was first team All Big Ten, played with the Rams. And I knew that he was a great defensive tackle, but I knew that I could beat him, and I knew that I was better than him. So I was ready to come off the ball quick. And their linebackers started mimicking our cadence. And I was just coming off sides. And I remember Jim bowling me when we're in the shower afterwards in the locker room. He's like, a little quick off the trigger, weren't you? And so, but you know what? We had some great battles with Michigan State. And I know they're kind of down right now, but Mel Tucker, he knows what it means to be an Ohio State coach. He was the guy that led our secondary when we won that national title in 2002. He knows what it would mean to his team to be able to beat the Buckeyes. It would change the course and trajectory of their season. So the target's on the back. Get ready.
Yeah, I think that again, I just don't know if they have the horsepower, and even more like something that I think is important as the talent is the mental. I don't think that they think after the whipping we gave them last year in the shoe, I don't think that they think they can run with us. I think that, like, once we step on the field, man, it shakes the room and they get scared and nervous, because I think that's what that program is right now. They have zero fight. They're really reeling right now, and I think that, like, when you get the big bad wolf coming to your door, it's really scary, and it could get ugly in a hurry up there. And it was weird. Like of all the buyer's remorse items I've seen in my life, like they give our boy Mel like $84 million or something insane last year. And then they did that on like a Monday. And then on Saturday, he shows up to the Horseshoe. And I think they were undefeated because they beat Michigan and they were a top 10 team. And we played the best first half in Ohio State history. We beat them like 49. It was like 49-0 at halftime. Like I've never seen anything like it. It was like we were on air in a walkthrough, like because everything was working. It was crazy. And then, we go up and lay an egg against Michigan, which again, that's why college football is a funny game because these kids, they believe they're hype sometimes, and then they go up and get smacked. And I mean, we were no different. Like we had a game or two where we should have been better, and we had some things happen, and we lost. And you look back at it, you're like, wow, I wish I could have seen that coming. But I think they're in a really interesting spot right now. TJ, talk a little bit about how your mental state was leading into the bye week. We played Iowa the last time we had a bye week in 05, because in 06 we went straight through. There were no bye weeks. They added Bowling Green to the schedule, took out our bye week. In 05 we played Iowa and we smacked them. And that was a game that we couldn't wait to play because they really whipped us at Iowa City, like kicked the dog shit out of us. It was bad. And we lost like 31-7. Yeah, but I thought Ralph was just a guy. Like I really didn't think Ralph was very good. I thought and I would give a guy credit if I thought he was like a dominator, but I blocked him and I was like, that's it. Like I mean he wasn't Erasmus James or Mario Williams or Manny Lawson. Those guys were all much better than Roth, I thought. But he was an energy guy, whatever. But when we beat Iowa in 05, like give your mentality lead up to that game, and then when you had that week off, what are your thoughts and how happy are you when you get to a bye week?
I don't want to say that I was necessarily happy, but to get guys healthy, to have a little bit of time off, to take a pause for a second. You're going to have a grinder of a week at practice, but to me, I like continuously playing on a weekly basis. I feel like you can get a little bit of rust through that week off, and just watching guys, and you kind of can get inside of your own head thinking, okay, I'm off this week. What are these guys doing? And, I would rather play it through. Now, I'll tell you the one guy you talk about, Matt Ross, with one arm and then grabbed Troy Smith with the other arm and sacked him, man. I'll tell you what, it was tough, man. That was tough going up there and really getting beat down. That was probably the worst beat down that outside of Florida that you and I ever experienced. And Jonathan Babineau and Abdul and Greenway, I mean, they got after us. So yeah, we were chomping at the bit in 05 to be able to get back and get those guys in the Horseshoe and get a little payback. But for me, I don't like the bye week. I just want to keep playing. I want to stay fresh. I want to stay in my zone, in my rhythm. And I think that extra couple days off kind of gets you out of it.
Yeah, football's a funny game. And I always tell people, when you look at the depth charts and you look at how veteran a team is and how young a team is, like in 04, we were really young, like freshmen, sophomores. Like I was a freshman starting. That was actually my first career start. I went up there and it's just like you always dream of. I tell people, it's like, yeah, I always dreamed of starting at Ohio State. My first career start, we lose 31-7 just get our asses kicked. And I'm like, yeah, that was exactly how I dreamed growing up as a little kid. But I think that, they were very veteran, very senior-lated, 4 senior starters on the D-line, and they got after us. And they had 2 guys that were NFL picks, and the other 2 guys were in camps. And then the next year, they were the young guys. They had Kenny Iwebama was the end, and then they had Madison was the other end, and we just kicked the dog shit out of them. Like, and I couldn't wait to see Greenway and Abdul Hodge and those guys, because like they're not gonna have those good guys in front of them anymore, and we just murdered them. And it felt so good to see Drew Tate lose his mind and throw his helmet, and he had that magical year in 04.
Bobby Carpenter was in his head.
Yeah, exactly. And like, it's, when you get whipped like that, you're like, all right, you guys got to come see us next year, and we're going to be older and better. And we were far superior, and we whipped him. And that's what football is all about. Like, I mean, sometimes when you're the young sophomore, you take your lumps, but then when you come back a year later and you're stronger, a junior or a senior, then it's your turn to hand out the whippings. And that's why, I love football. But I remember I broke my foot in the Iowa game, and I remember I thought like my cleat was too tight or something. And I was like, God, my foot is killing me. And like, I go to the training room after, and my foot was like black because there was like the blood, and it was really bad, and it hurt like hell. And I remember I was wearing sandals. I was like, damn, I can't even, like, I could walk, but they put me in one of those plastic big boot things. So I was walking around in that with a sandal. And then God bless Jim Tressel and Jim Bowman. They're the best because they said, we know you broke your foot, so you're not going to do anything at practice this week. And I was like, thank God. So you're going to be in the weight room working out, getting your cardio on, getting in shape, you keep your, and I'm like, thank God, because my foot is killing me. And they didn't make me, like, they didn't say, oh, you're soft, you're a puss. I was like, no, dude, I'll play with it, but like, I would like to not practice with it because it is like excruciating pain every time I walk. So it was funny because then, I got to Penn State and I practiced all week for Penn State in pain every day, like excruciating pain with my broken foot. And then like, I get ready.
You broke your foot.
Oh yeah, dude, I broke my foot. Like I fractured my fifth metatarsal. So I'd have surgery on it after the season. So I wore that boot everywhere I went, that big boot. That's stupid. I hated that thing. They gave me a low profile one because I hated the one that went up to my calf. Because I was like, I don't need one for my calf. I need one for my foot. And then we get out to State College in their little crappy 1950s locker room, and legitimately, yeah, exactly. That's what it looks like. I mean, and that's the one I hated. I hated that high profile because that thing, it's just annoying. Your calf gets a little sweaty. It stinks. Like, I had one that just went up to like my calf. I was like, I just need the mid calf one. I don't need the one that goes up to my knee. Good God. So we get out to Penn State and they say, hey, we're going to shoot your foot up. And I was like, thank God, because I need painkiller. My foot is killing me. So I go out through warm-ups and I don't take it then. And then I get into the locker room and I didn't tape my right ankle before warm-ups. And they taped me for warm-ups. Then they cut my tape. And I went in there with the doctors, and man, they took the syringe of napalm and injected it into my foot, and it hurt so bad. And I'm not scared of needles. I'm not scared of shots. I'm not scared of any of that. But whatever they put in my foot, it felt like fire. It felt like they were putting like they dipped my foot into a furnace or something. I mean, it hurt so bad. And then, then after like 3 minutes, it was completely numb. And I was like, this is the greatest thing in the universe. It's like robbing Peter to pay Paul. Because I was like, I know when this wears off, it's going to hurt like hell. But like for this moment, when we're getting ready to go play Penn State loud as hell, Tamba Hali, they're playing Phil Collins in the air tonight. I was like, this is the greatest thing in the world. My foot feels like it's brand new. Let's go, let's go whoop that ass. And then like, we go out there. Yeah, I know. Then we go out there and, we're struggling because like, it was, no one had ever realized how loud that place was because that was like the first whiteout ever.
Oh my God.
Severely, like, I mean, you just like playing next to like an airplane engine. And I remember like, I literally, when you would try to tell me the calls, I would just try to read your lips and see if you're saying Rip or Liz because I couldn't tell what, I couldn't get what Nick was saying. And then when we went out there in 2007, it was better because Jimmy Cordell, I literally came up with sign language because I was like, dude, none of you guys have played in this and we need to have like sign language for every call. Lake, River, Rip, Liz, everything. You got to make like 3 fingers is Rip or Liz or whatever. Just figure it out and we'll learn it. And then in 2007 went out there and the noise wasn't even a thing because we had sign language. So, but I go out there and then the second quarter, Chucky gets picked up by their big juiced up D tackle, the white dude.
Did we make that field goal? Did we get that field goal?
Yeah, we made it. And I remember like I heard my knee pop and I was like, well, that ain't good. And then I'm standing there, I'm laying on the ground looking at the sky, and like I'm on that cold ass grass. And like John Conroy and like Steve Winter or whoever was in is like, come on, man, get up. And I like go jogging off. I was like, dude, my knee is not right. So I get to the sideline and I call the trainers. I'm like, dude, like my knee popped. Like something, this isn't like I'm crazy, but like, yeah, I stood up and like it wouldn't, my knee would not stay in the socket. It would like slide out. Every time I'd get in my stance, it would just slide out. And I could tell, I was like, if I go out there and try to vertical set and I get bull rush, my knee is going to completely blow out because one of those ligaments is gone. Like there's like the 3 ligaments that holds your knee in place. One of them is gone because it keeps sliding out every time I get in my stance. So I was like, if I go out there, I'm going to blow my knee out. And plus I couldn't hold any pressure because I had the trainer like try to bull rush me. And like, it just would slide right out. And I was like, yeah, if that's Tom, he's gonna pull my knee out. So
yeah. Let's remember that guy that's going to be putting pressure against you is the guy that's probably going to be.
yeah, he's a first team All-American.
One day.
So like that's like one of those decisions where you're like, can I tape it? Can I brace it? I mean, I already had a DonJoy on, thank God. Otherwise, my knee would have been completely gone. But I was like, can I put a sleeve on it? I put a sleeve on, didn't do anything. Like, so we went in the training room with Doc Kading, and Doc's like, he's looking at it and he's like, yeah, your MCL's gone. It's completely torn. Like, and I was like, I knew I heard something pop because like, you just know, like you can hear it and like you can feel it pop. And I was like, yeah, that hurt. And it wasn't like painful. It's like one of those excruciating pain things, but it's just from a functionality standpoint, it just didn't work anymore. I was like, I literally like my knee was slipping out of place, jogging off the field after the field goal. I was like, there's no way I can play. So like, and it sucked because I was all amped up and I was excited to see Tom again because I whooped him in 2004. I wanted to whoop him again because I knew he was.
You did, man. And that's one thing that needs to be like in 2004 in Horseshoe. And that was like early in your career. That I think is like where you originally made your name. You got after Tamba and like, I remember there was one play. I think you drove him off the ball like 10 yards and buried him.
Dude, I literally,
you got after him.
I literally pancaked him on the Horseshoe, like legit. And I only had a handful of pancakes in my career where it's like a legitimate, the guy didn't get tripped. I didn't torque him. I literally drove him his back onto the block. Oh, it's like something that you put in a recruiting video. And like, and I remember, it's like when you go against the guy and then the next year, like Joe Paterno was like, oh, he should be a first team All-American. He's not getting enough recognition. And he had a big game the week before he played us. And I was like, that's the same guy, 91. And I remember watching the film before. I was like, he doesn't have any moves. He's a good player. He's like, but he's just like, I didn't think he was like some, whirlwind, unbelievable pass rusher. Now, he ends up getting the game clinching sack off of, our guys screwing up, which again, that's not a lot of sacks happen. It's not because they do some great moves, because the pass protections break down, or, someone takes a bad set, or someone doesn't help on a double team, which is what happened on the last play of that game. But, I didn't think much of it. And now, again, great player, Pro Bowler, played in the NFL for 12 years or whatever. But, and again, great career, nice guy, everything. But like, I wasn't.
I want to say he was 8, 9-time All Pro, right?
Oh, no way. Not all. No, he never made. Do you know what All Pro even is? All Pro is like. You know what All Pro is? All right, let's bet right now. I'm gonna look it up right now. How many times do you think Tom Holly made All Pro? All Pro is like above the Pro Bowl. That's the highest honor you can get as an NFL football player. And you say he made 8 or 9 times. That's like Deacon Jones or Reggie White or. All right, so he made 6 Pro Bowls. He made second team All Pro twice in 11 and 13.
Okay, so it was Pro Bowls is what I was saying. 6 Pro Bowls.
Yeah, but that's a huge difference. Yeah, I know. Like I said, he was a good player. Like I didn't say. I mean, but I remember going against him. I wasn't scared with speed. Then I'm looking at his combine numbers. He ran a 4.87, so I knew that he couldn't run around me. And he did 18 reps, so I knew he couldn't run through me. He's not strong. And his broad jump was 8.10, and shit, mine was 8.9, and I'm 315 pounds. So it's like. He wasn't a great athlete. He was a good motor guy. He was productive in college, but he wasn't like some guy where I'm just like, oh my God, how am I ever going to be able to touch that guy? Like Mario, who didn't have as good of an NFL career, but was a million times better athlete. Like Mario made 4 Pro Bowls, but he was 6'6", 300 and ran a 4.6 40. So, I mean, that's a different level. I mean, he's just so much bigger, but I digress. Well, let's.
So am I off base saying that maybe Tomba could be considered for the Hall of Fame?
Oh, I don't think that he has any prayer of making the Hall of Fame. He might make the Hall of Good. I don't think he'd make the Hall of Fame. I mean, the Hall of Fame, if they let Tomba in, and again, this isn't me being negative towards Tomba, but like, he's a 6-time Pro Bowler. He never made All Pro. Like, I mean, you got to make All Pro at least once to be in the Hall of Fame, in my opinion. Because All Pro means like, if you're the All Pro, first team All Pro center, you're the best center in the league that year. If you're the All Pro quarterback, right. There's no, hey, 7 defensive ends opted out, so now you're in the Pro Bowl. Because those Pro Bowl rosters swell so bad because guys are going into free agency and they don't want to play. Guys, again, the Pro Bowl doesn't even exist anymore, so we don't even have to talk about this anymore. But like if I was a really great player, I would never play in the Pro Bowl because what's the point? Like I'm going to go out there, risk injury. It's a game where you don't get paid, and your body has so many injuries, and there's freak things that happen in football all the time, and it's just not worth risking it to me, But
Did I hear they just canceled it recently? It's done.
it's gone. Yeah, it's gone forever. They made it a skills competition, which is it's fine. Like they're gonna do like a flag football game and stuff. I mean,
That
I don't
was
even know what
always
they
the
had.
best part of it anyways, was like seeing the big guys, Larry Allen and them do like the
Bench press,
and the different like strength stuff and seeing the quarterbacks like throw at the targets down the field. But no, I mean, I don't know. Tom Bahali, man, I think he had a heck of an NFL career, and I got to give you your props, man. I don't give them to you enough. We always kind of bust balls, but man, in 04, you dominated that cat.
But yeah, I mean, but again, I thought he was a good player, but I just I don't know. Yeah, it's one of those things.
That being said, when you went out of the game in 05 over in Happy
Oh,
Valley, and
holy
you were
cow.
spot on.
Oh my God.
That was the loudest environment that I ever played in, and I'm pretty sure it was the loudest you ever played in. You're talking about like looking at me trying to read my lips. I'm doing the same thing. I'm 2 feet away from Nick Mangold, and I can't understand anything that's coming out of his mouth. And I'm trying to read his lips. And then all of a sudden you go out, and what if Bowles and Tress could go back and do it over again, what they should have done is pop me out to right tackle and put John Conroy in at right guard. But they kept me at right guard, and they put Alex Boone in at right tackle. And Alex, like, he was young at the time, but he didn't know like the snap count, the checks, all that stuff. And I'm worrying about Jay Alford. Was it Scott Paxson?
Yeah, that's it. That's the guy that picked up our long snapper and blew my knee out. Paxson.
I'm worried about those guys. I'm worried about Tamba. And now Alex is looking at me, and we can't hear anything.
Oh God.
And he has no idea what the snap count is. But you know what? It was a learning experience. We should have won that game. You mentioned, I mean, he beats Hamby and Boone. Tamba did around the edge, and it was this perfect storm. But Happy Valley is, to me, outside of the Horseshoe, that's the toughest place to play in the Big Ten and maybe in the country.
Yeah, I think it's easily the hardest place to play in the Big Ten. Easily. That's why the only reason, and I don't think Penn State's any good this year, but the only reason that I ever give and plus they get to play them at noon, which is a way different animal than playing them at
and they can pack
8
almost
o'clock.
110,000 in that stadium.
Yeah, and it has to do with the acoustics of the stadium too, because like it just holds noise. And plus, again, they pump noise in through speakers. So like, I mean, because you can't physically be that loud unless you're pumping noise in through speakers. So that's that's something that doesn't get talked about enough. Is like we went there and I was like, why is it so supernaturally loud here compared to everywhere else that we play? Because I mean, so if they have 5,000 more people than Ohio State and it's 100 times louder, like it never made sense to me. Like we play, in the Big House and all these other places that have 100,000 people, and it's not even 1/5 as loud as Penn State was. But again, I think that part of it was their first whiteout, so it was kind of a new thing. I think that they were kind of on the upswing after sucking for years. Like they sucked in 03, 04, 05. They like started off hot. They beat they had a big victory the week before they played us, so they were undefeated. We were undefeated. We're always the show everywhere we go. Like we're the Beatles. We're the Rolling Stones. When Ohio State comes to town, it's like the Rolling Stones are in town. Yeah, Motley Crue. Well, no, Motley Crue. I mean, compared to the Beatles, come on. Like,
so I got to tell you a quick little funny story here because we're talking about that Penn State game in 05. So on our radio show the other day, we were talking about, you remember, we had to fly into Harrisburg, I believe.
Oh, God, that was amazing.
And you remember Bobby Carpenter.
Oh, my God.
When our buses, when we got into Harrisburg, they kind of went into a dead end at the airport. And we got stuck, and it's raining, sleeting, snowing, and Bobby's back there yelling about, we haven't had dinner yet. We got to get to our hotel. And I've never seen Tress do this. But he got up, and he was so upset. And he went over, and you and I might have been sitting right next to each other on the bus. And he went over, and he whispered into Bobby's ear things that we're not going to repeat right now. But Bobby did not say a word the rest of that night. I mean, I think we got into the Ramada where we stayed at like 11:30 at night. We had our Friday night meal at like midnight.
Oh, it was crazy late. I don't. It might not have been that late, but I remember he. It's the only time I ever heard Trust say the F word, and it was
Yep.
amazing. And like, cause we say it like we brush our teeth, like every 3 times a day, 100 times a day, whatever.
Right.
Like we with Trust, like I remember Bobby because I was dying, and I'm sitting there. There were some things that really stood out. For one, there was like some sort of hurricane remnants that were over State College, which is why we couldn't land in State College. We had to fly to Harrisburg. We get on these buses. And that's a decent drive. Like it's like at least an hour, whatever drive to State College.
Yeah.
And I remember Bobby just going nuts in the back, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is hilarious!" And Bobby's like, "We're supposed to be the class of college football," because like we hired a bus driver who doesn't know how to get out of the airport gate, so he drives to like a locked gate, and then we're stuck there, and we're just sitting there, and I just. I'm so like I'm annoyed, but like, what are you gonna do? Like, I'm not gonna sit there and complain because like it's not the bus driver's fault that he's incompetent. It's not anyone's fault because Bob Tucker had to like scramble, get buses to Harrisburg. Like I mean, he had everything on point to go from State College's airport to the hotel, but the last second we're like, hey, we gotta find a Harrisburg, else we might wreck. And so he had to get all that wound up, find a bus driver there, whatever, and the other thing I remember that I'll never forget is, we had like the little VCRs on there, little TV things that were hanging down, and Nick Mangold volunteers a movie because he had, we had little portable DVD players back in the olden days, and they're like, they don't have a DVD they watch. Nick had Boondock Saints, which was like unbelievable because like Coach Tress is with.
England are sitting there.
Oh
right in front
my
of the
God.
screen.
Yeah, and they're and Tress, I love Tress and I love Helen, but they're about as buttoned up and they're very no swearing, no profanity, no violence, which is funny because the game that we play is a very violent and swearing laced game, and we put on Nick puts on Boondock Saints. Oh my God. And it is, if people haven't seen Boondock Saints, it is one of the most vulgar, personally, it's one of my favorite movies of all time. It's one of the funniest, like, but it is just blood, guts, swearing, F-bombs, drinking. So, like, for me and TJ, it was like the perfect movie to watch before a football game. But, like, Tress and Ellen watch it. And then, Bowles is sitting up there dying. Like, he's kind of covered his dying, laughing. And I forget who else is up there that, like, they're sitting behind Tress and Ellen, so they can't see it. But it was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. And I was like, oh my God, Nick, like the self-awareness was just amazing. Like I was like, self-awareness doesn't get you into the Hall of Fame. Thankfully, drive blocking and pass blocking does. So Nick will be in the NFL Hall of Fame one day. But, him picking Boondock Saints is probably one of the greatest things he ever did because holy cow. I'll never forget that. I'll never forget Bobby getting F-bombed by Tress on the bus because that was, of all the funny things that people don't really get to see when we go on the road, that was just amazing because Bobby is as opinionated as any human being in the world, and he loves for everybody to know his opinions, even if nobody cares. And that moment where Tress jumped over those seats, man, like a ninja, because we were all laying across the aisles and tired and trying to get some rest and some sleep. So we had it was at least an hour bus ride. So we're just trying to be as comfortable as possible on a charter bus. And so Tress like literally ninja warriors it over us, like bounds across me and Robbie and Nick, because we all sat towards kind of the middle front of the bus, and it was just absolutely amazing. That was like one of those moments where I was really happy I was on bus one.
For all of our guys out there in Scoop World, they'll appreciate this because I know we got a bunch of old heads out there that remember the Woody Hayes days. So I got a chance to hang out with Jeff Logan recently and hear him speak and tell some stories. And everybody knows that Jeff was a guy who had to wait his turn behind Archie Griffin. I mean, talk about a tough position to be in. Archie, the two-time Heisman Trophy winner, and then Jeff finally gets his turn. He's a captain. He's first team All Big Ten. But he told this story about the Buckeye team flying into Happy Valley, and they were on those old what they called it was Allegheny Air, which were the old prop planes or with the propellers, and they called it Agony Air. And so they're flying in, and there was two planes. First plane was with the starters and the coaching staff. The second plane is what they called the AYOs, all you others. Yes. So they're flying in to Happy Valley, and the weather starts getting really bad. One of the co-pilot comes back and tells Woody, hey, we are to Harrisburg like what we did, and we're going to have to bus in to State College. And Woody said, no way, unacceptable, not going to do it. He said, okay, well, like we're facing some really bad weather here. Like this is going to be dangerous. The levels and we're not going to be able to tell as we approach. And so Woody tells him, send the other plane in first. If they make it, we'll follow them in. If they don't, we'll go to Harrisburg. And Jeff said that was the first time in my life that I was happy to be a starter. He's like, Woody said, send the other guys in, man. If they make it, we're good. If not, screw it.
Oh my God, that is amazing. That is a great story. And I mean, I'm telling you, like that's the funny thing about all you others, AYOs, is something that, you know, Wake used to always say AYOs. I never knew what it meant. Like Keith Wakefield, my high school coach, like great job by the AYOs, you know, at the end of a varsity game when, you know, when the starters are all pulled and they put the JV in and they keep the shutout. Great job by the AYOs. Like I never thought it was demeaning. And then, so I knew it was a Woody Hayes thing. I learned, you know, I educated myself on Woody Hayes. I read a lot of his literature and I really studied him. And that was like one of the things he loved to say. And so I said that at a press conference. I don't know if we were playing Penn State. It was my senior year when I was a captain. And I said at the press, that was a great job by the AYOs, you know, keeping them out of the end zone. I don't know if it was to maintain a shutout or what the deal was, but I said like, great job by the AYOs there at the end. And I had a parent of a player write Tress and say, how dare Kirk Barton call my son an AYO? He works just as hard as Kirk does. And I was like, no, he doesn't. Because if he did, he'd be starting. He wouldn't be, you know, an AYO. But anyways, like, I always like, I got such a kick out of the fact that some parent literally wrote that to Jim Tressel. And and Shelley Poe, God bless her, she's the SID at Auburn now. She literally said to me, hey, could you not use that term anymore? And I'm like, it's a Woody Hayes term. Like Woody Hayes, who like the building's named after, is like, that was like his term. It's like, you know, it's like it's just something where I'm like paying homage to, you know, maybe the greatest figure in the history of Ohio State football. But it was just so funny because like there was a parent that wrote and say, how dare you call my son an AYO? He works as hard as Kirk does. I was like, for one, I was like,
so sensitive, man.
Oh my God. I'm just like, I will never be that parent that says my son works as hard as your son. Cause this is like, how do you know? Like, do you go in on Saturdays and work out? Do you diet? Cause I was a nut. I mean, especially my senior year, I was a nut. I was like just a workout maniac. Cause I was like, I had to like set the tone. Cause we got annihilated by Florida. All of my homies left. So you were gone. Troy was gone. Teddy, Pitt, like all my dogs are gone. And so like I had to like I was looking around, I was like, man, I'm the only senior that's played, and it's like I gotta like I gotta really set the tone because we're gonna be really young. We don't have any starters back, and we really gotta be good because like I'm not about to go up my senior year and go lose to Michigan up there. So I was insane my senior year just because I was like, you know, we're not gonna go out like that to see because we're picked third to be in the Big Ten, and we got smashed by Florida. And every day, you know, we had that little key code thing on the locker room, and it was like I had to punch in 41-14 every single day in the locker room because Tress changed.
They would change that thing.
They changed the code. Tressel made our door code 41-14, so every time we walked in the building, I had to type in 41-14, and I'm just like, you know, and again, I'm not gonna swear because I don't want to get dinged by YouTube, but I was a salty dude. I was like, I can't believe I have to type this every time I walk in. I was like, this is gonna change, and then. So it was
on the LSU game. Was that was probably the key.
That was 38-24. It probably was. Yeah. But I mean, the thing about 38-24 is like, at least we didn't roll over and just die like we did against Florida. At least we fought. But I mean, the difference between Florida and LSU is Florida, we just sucked and we lost our best player in the first play of the game, which sucked. But LSU, like, we just played like complete morons. We had 5 personal fouls. We had a punt blocked. We dropped a touchdown pass. We had false starts on the 1 yard line, like just stupid stuff that you can't ever do. We roughed the punter on 4th and 22. Like at that point, it was a 14-point game. We get a stop, 4th and 22, and we rough the punter and give them a first down, and they go score and make it a 21-point game. I'm just like, and again, like. You know, I'm not being critical, and this isn't calling any individual out, but like when you're playing in a national championship game against the first or second best team in the country, the margin for error is so slim, especially when you're not that good. Like we weren't that good. You know, it was a lot of smoke and mirrors, a lot of ground and pound. You know, we weren't as good as we were in '05. We probably were on par with where we were in '06, but it was just different. 'Cause we had the number one defense in '07. Our defense was much better in '07 than '06, but our offense obviously in '06 is better than in '07. So you kind of flip flop those, but you know, you can't do dumb things when you're playing a great team and expect to win. Like you can't have, you know, you can't rough a punter, you can't have a field goal get blocked, you can't have 5 personal fouls because every personal foul is an automatic first down at 15 yards. So it's like that's a free 75 yards, you know. So it's just part
Come
of
on,
the
man.
game. Can't,
Hey, Todd Beckman was first team All Big Ten, man.
yeah, but I mean, like you know, like
That 07 offense was nice.
I don't know. I
Didn't
mean,
you guys? Didn't you guys go out to like a 7 or 14-0 lead over LSU? Beanie had like the first 2 touchdowns.
no, we're up 10-0 after the first quarter. I'll never
Okay.
forget that. But it just like, you know, just we didn't have the, you know, it was like one of those things where I knew we had to play perfect. We were playing in Louisiana. We're playing against a team that was the number 1 team all season. They choked against Arkansas in a crazy game. And I think they choked against Kentucky. Like they had 2 losses. So it was like a miracle, but they made it in just because, you know, they had a really good team and their quarterback played, you know, 8-10 years in the NFL. I don't think he ever took a snap, but he made like $50 million, Matt Flynn. They had Dorsey, Tyson Jackson. You know, they had a big O line. None of the O linemen are really that good. Like none of them were NFL guys. They got drafted, but they never really played. But you know, it is what it is. Like this is part of the gig. Well, this thing was kind of all over the place. Any closing thoughts? Wrap this thing up. I'm gonna get this thing posted. Any closing thoughts heading into Michigan State? We talked a little bit about our old stories about Michigan State. Tomorrow we'll do a little bit of a Michigan State preview with TJ and C. Grant. But any closing thoughts, TJ, so we can wrap this thing up?
We're gonna have make sure you check out. You're gonna have stories from the vault tomorrow. I'm gonna give you some really in-depth Michigan State stuff. To me, it's you got to go up there and again know that Michigan State is not playing their best ball, and you have to find a way to dial in. You know, I felt bad because I had made the comments last week that this Rutgers game kind of felt like playing a MAC team. And Rutgers came out in the first part of that game and, you know, they got after it a little bit. This while once we got into our rhythm, it was a different story. But, you know, the Big Ten, everybody around the country is going to say that it's down a little bit and it's just really it's Ohio State and Michigan. But to me, every week, if you're not up, ready to play, that you have that target on your back, everybody wants to beat Ohio State. Everybody wants to beat Michigan because we're the top 2 within that conference. You know, Maryland, they got a decent squad. Michigan State, those guys, and hey, I'll tell you the guy that I'm going to be keeping my eyes on is your Perry alumni, man, Matt Carrick. You know, he's finally in his career where he knows how to pass protect because he never had to do that in the wing T over there at Perry High School. That was the big knock on him. Once he got there to Michigan State, he's a great offensive lineman, but all he knew how to do was run block. Now they got some guys there, and I think they'll put their best product out on the field Saturday. So we have to be ready to go. We have to be fired up. We have to be dialed in. And again, what I've harped on all year long, you've talked about it, Kurt. DeJuan Jones, Paris Johnson. I mean, these guys are probably the best offensive tackle pair in the country. Would you say?
Oh, easily. It's not even close.
But they got to do the little things right. You got to go into East Lands and try to be perfect. Be like 72 was in 06. Don't jump off sides 3 times, but play that perfect game. I think we're capable of doing that. I see us winning by 3 touchdowns when we go up there. So, and it's always going to be good to be able to give a little something to Mel Tucker. You know, he spent a lot of time at Ohio State. We know him well. He'll know the right energy and right tempo and the right temperature to have his team set at. It's how we go in and handle it. You mentioned it again last week too, brother. It's easy to line up and play at home. You're sleeping in your own bed. You're in the confines of your own home. When you got to go on the road, sleep in a hotel, be on a different schedule, be here, be there. It's different. Got to handle it.
Yeah, you got to go to the airport, check in through TSA, get on a plane, fly, bus. It's way harder than being at home. Or it's like the thing about home is it's just so comfortable because when you're done with the game, you go right to your car and you're out and go grab dinner, go kick with the homies. But whatever. But sometimes it's fun to go on the road because I told people. I was talking today on BuckeyeScoop.com on our Ask the Insiders board. I was talking about how, my favorite victory ever was beating Michigan in 2007 up there. When it was my senior year and I was captain, and I got to go look at Jake and Chad and Mike, the three captains they sent out versus me, and I think it was James, and because James was a full-time captain, Marcus. We had an all rotating defensive captain that year, Deontay Johnson. But it was like I knew those guys because I've been playing against those guys for 4 years, and it was like it was their senior day, and it's always fun to win on the road. Like winning on the road is great because it's like you get to conquer their castle. You get to lay siege to their building, beat it, take it, send all their fans home sad. There's just something crazy about me that just loves doing that because there's all those people there excited, hoping that somehow by some miracle they can compete and potentially beat us. And when you beat them to death and then you beat them and the scoreboard's all zeros, it's a wonderful feeling. Well, that being said, I appreciate you, brother. What time is the vault going to be live tomorrow? We're going to post this on the board so everybody knows so they can tune in for it. What time?
We'll have it up at lunchtime, man. We'll call it stories about 12 noon. And I'm going to give you guys a little preview. Kirk remembers this. There was a incident that happened in 2004 up there on the sideline between me and one of our fellow teammates, and Kirk was right in the middle of it. You remember that?
I don't.
Involved our tight end, Ryan Hamby.
Oh, now I remember that. Yeah,
Juicy.
you guys are getting after it. Yeah, that was good. I remember that now.
Juicy.
Good,
it's gonna be juicy.
I love it. I'll let it rip in the Baltimore. Well, I'm going to wrap this thing up. We had a nice long one today. Appreciate you, brother. As always, thank you so much for tuning in. We have a blast doing this. We appreciate you guys, as always, tuning in. BuckeyeScoop.com is our home. We just added C. Grant to the roster, national champion, the guy that sacked Ken Dorsey to seal it, and easily the best singer on staff now. So C is fantastic. I'm so excited that my brother's joining us and keep cranking content for you guys. We are growing like crazy on BuckeyeScoop.com. If you have not joined BuckeyeScoop.com and you are an Ohio State fan, you need to jump in. We've got the best inside information in the game, constantly getting new intel from the Woody Hayes, from inside the program. Really excited about what we're doing, and we have the best community in the business. So we appreciate you guys as always. I hope you guys had a great day. If you enjoyed this content, please leave us a like down below and comment, what do you want us to do versus Michigan State this week? Do you want us to play everybody? Do you want us to rest some of the guys that are hurt? Do you want to make it a game time decision? I'm all for resting some of these guys that are nicked up because I don't think it's going to be much of a game. And I want these guys to be healthy when we go to Penn State because I don't want to risk Jackson Smith and Jigba, Travion, any of these other guys that are nicked. They need to be ready to go for the games that we really need them for. So with that being said, as always, thank you so much, Buckeye Nation, for tuning in. And thank you, Scoop family. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Go Bucks.